Is this now twice in 1 week, Diesel, or at least back-to-back weeks that David Hood of TigerNet has provided content to lead Wire to Wire? We have no agreement. We have no settlement, no court case with David Hood in terms of him providing content, but he's just so good at his job. He's just such a good writer that we're talking about an article from David Hood yet again, and it has to do with the Clemson lawsuit. Did you line this up with David, or is this just natural? It just happened.
I would say let's put him on staff, Cole, but
Yeah.
I don't think we can afford it, honestly.
Oh, y'all get paid here?
Yeah.
All right, so North Carolina. A North Carolina judge has denied Clemson's motion to stay, says case must continue in North Carolina. This is big news, breaking news just about an hour or so ago. The North Carolina judge who heard Clemson's motion to dismiss/stay the ACC's lawsuit against the university released his judgment today, and he says the case needs to continue in the state of North Carolina. This is still a developing story, obviously, Diesel, but a quick summary. Last week, ACC Clemson appeared in Mecklenburg County. We talked about this last week. The ACC has told Clemson several times that this is probably not going to happen in terms of them wanting it out of North Carolina. The Friday hearing in Pickens is the same thing, but on the opposite side of the coin. Clemson was the first of the parties to take legal action when it sued the ACC in Pickens County back in March, challenging the conference grant of rights, large exit fee required of any school hoping to leave the ACC for another conference. And now the ACC is asking Pickens County Judge Perry Gravely to dismiss/stay the case in its favor. Your instant reaction, Diesel.
Clemson fans will say there's no way we can get a fair shake in the state of North Carolina. They're going to call chicanery because, well, Clemson fans have been calling chicanery on the ACC when it comes to dealings in the state of North Carolina for decades.
They have. And what's fascinating is, this at one point it seemed as if it might go Clemson's way, but the ACC has released a statement as of today, and this just came out a few moments ago. The ACC says, "We are pleased with today's ruling as it confirms that only a North Carolina court can render a decision that would apply to both Clemson and Florida State. The opinion also reinforces what the ACC has clearly articulated from day one. The North Carolina courts are the proper place to enforce and interpret the ACC's agreements."
Well, the ACC certainly doesn't want to let this go to Pickens County. I mean, yes, you hope that the legal system is blind and is fair and impartial no matter where a case gets brought. But certainly, it's not difficult to say that there might be a little bit of home field advantage if this case was parsed out in Pickens County. And this is not really surprising. I mean, isn't this the exact same ruling we got about the Florida State case? So the ACC really is flexing its muscles with this whole grant of rights, this legal battle back and forth. I mean, we've been told and told and told again that this thing is airtight, that there is no way anyone is getting out of this deal without paying a ton of money, and it's proving to be true.
It is, and I have a couple of questions in terms of why it has to be in North Carolina. The very end of the statement from the ACC said, as the court found, Clemson does not challenge whether the ACC grant of rights is valid or enforceable. This recognizes the ACC's consistent position that the 2013 and 2016 grant of rights are valid and enforceable agreements that each of our members entered into voluntarily with full knowledge of their terms. I guess I would love to sit down with Clemson, Diesel, and ask them, ask Graham Neff, ask the president, what are your pros and cons of allowing this to stay in North Carolina? Because evidently they think there's some cons for it being in another state, right?
Yeah, this ruling means Clemson fans need to get real comfy, sitting where you are in the ACC. You're not going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, do we really think that the SEC is just going to come out of nowhere and throw them a ton of money, a boatload of money to get them out? No, they're not going to do that. Are they going to do that for Florida State? No, they're not going to do that. I mean, they have not shown to this point that they desire Clemson and Florida State enough. I'm not saying that they're undesirable to the SEC, but they don't desire them enough to throw that kind of money at them to help them out of a bad deal that they signed. Clemson, Florida State, all the other ACC schools signed a bad deal. Mm-hmm. And then the ACC sat on their hands, sat on their asses, and said, well, we don't need to go out there and try to hunt you any more money. We don't need to go out there and negotiate for more on your behalf because we got this deal. And it's set for a very, very long time. I understand why Clemson and Florida State, if we're going to talk about North Carolina and Virginia fans as well, are upset and disgruntled with being where they are because your league has let you down. That can't be argued, Cole. The league has let its ACC member institutions down by not continuing to keep pace with what other conferences are doing. But now you're stuck. And that's why you don't sign a super long-term deal. That's like buying a car and saying, I'm going to sign up for 15 years of payments when I know that this car has a tendency to break down in 10 years.
Yeah, and it's not worth that. So there's more to come on this, obviously, but Bledsoe, the judge of North Carolina, when he denied the motion to stay, basically he said the decision emphasized the need for a consistent and uniform interpretation of the grant of rights agreements and the ACC's Constitution and bylaws. The court noted that only a North Carolina court has jurisdiction over all involved parties, FSU, Clemson, and the ACC, and thus can thus provide binding clarity on the case.
And I think that's a good thing. I mean, otherwise, if that didn't happen, Florida State reissues their lawsuit. Virginia has one in the state of Virginia. North Carolina, I mean, they'd be SOL because they'd be filing inside the state of North Carolina anyway. But this just keeps all of the member institutions from essentially bombarding the ACC with lawsuits in – how many states are they in now? Probably 12, 13 states at least.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's a smart move for this judge to do this. And, you know, I'm not calling chicanery, but it's certainly disappointing if you're a Clemson fan.
What do you say if you are a Clemson fan listening? 71307 is the way you can start, or it's the way you can text the show. But we ask you to start your text with the word fan. Again, that's 71307. Phone lines are open as well, 844-FAN-PHONE. We're also live, as we are every day, on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Hop in the chat section there. I guess my only question was, because Clemson filed first, that doesn't give them the right to keep the court case in their state. I guess that would be my question. And I don't know the logistics of and the legality of how these court cases work. I'm very ignorant to that. But I would just assume that when you file first in your state, you'd be able to keep it in your state. But I guess it doesn't matter if you file first or last, you know. And if they're not going to get it in Florida or South Carolina, if they're not going to be able to make a ruling in either one, to your point, it'll probably be, 2028? Right now it's 2024. That's 4 years from now. It'll probably be 2028 before we even see possibly a move for Clemson leaving the ACC.
It will. I mean, I think maybe at the very earliest we hear some rumblings in 34, and then by 36, the moment that grant of rights expires, bam.
God, that's
Clemson
a long
is out
time,
the door.
though, man.
Yeah, that is.
It's 12 years.
It's 12 years, and think about that, 12 years multiplied by what's the gulf expected to be. I mean, what's the gulf right now between the ACC and the SEC? Something like $40 million. 12 years times $40 million. That's how much more Vanderbilt has than Clemson. That's how much more money, South Carolina has than Clemson, that Florida has than Florida State. I mean, it puts them deep in a financial hole that Clemson better hope. Clemson's prayer now better be, we need to get some major overarching change that just blows all this stuff up, because that's really your only hope to get out of this any sooner than 2036.
And look, if I was a betting man, right, I love that line. If I were a betting man. Okay, I'm a betting man. If I were to bet, Diesel, I would bet that before 2036, Clemson's out of the ACC. In today's world, with the money being able to be thrown around from every other institution and conference, I don't know how it happens. To your point, I understand that it's a large buyout, if we want to use that term, but they're going to – the way I look at it is they're going to have to just bite the bullet. I mean, I don't know what it will take, but something's going to have to be done. There's no way you can convince me that Clemson's in the ACC for another 12 years.
T-Swizzle on the chat says ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Sweet Chin, doesn't matter. Tigers by 40.
T-Swizzle.
Yeah.
I love it. Texter from the 978 says, SEC just needs to trade Vandy and South Carolina for Florida State and Clemson.
Well, if they want to get better as a conference, yeah, but that's not really how it works.
Yeah,
and we all know that. I mean, just imagine, Cole, the lawsuits that could happen if and this is not something that I'm just making up out of nowhere, right? This has been discussed for years now. What if they just kind of cut the dead weight and they brought the best out of all these conferences together in one super league? But could you imagine the lawsuits or the payments that would be required to keep schools like Vanderbilt from suing you into oblivion? Like,
if they're just cut ties.
Yeah, I mean, they're expecting $50, $60, $70 million a year in perpetuity, right?
Yeah.
So if the league just says, nana, nana, boo-boo, we're kicking you out, then they can say, whoa, lost revenue. We're suing you for lost revenue because you can't just kick us out. We have an agreement. We're a member of this conference.
And that's the issue, right? Whether the conferences stay as is, or whether there's a mega conference, some way, somehow, there's no way to get out of where we are without, to your point, the continued lawsuits. Because if you stay, you're going to experience teams trying to get out, like what's happening right now with Florida State and Clemson. And then again, to your point, if you just bust it up, I mean, you're right. Teams are going to be upset about it. I don't think the good teams that have the revenue, the Alabamas of the world, the LSUs, Georgias, they might not be as upset about it for a super conference. But you better get used to, in college football, you better get used to lawsuits aplenty for the rest of the time being, as long as this earth is still spinning, really.
ACC brass better spend the next 12 years, Cole, trying to figure out how to make up that $50 million gap. Otherwise, you know exactly when your conference is going to die.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think Back to the Future when he has the Polaroid of the gravestone that has the exact date that he's going to die, and everything he does changes whether or not that date gets erased off of that gravestone or not. Now the ACC is on the clock, and I genuinely hope they feel this way. We are on the clock to save our asses.
And
we have to go out and make up this money, or all of our biggest brands will leave in 2036. Now, we know that the Big 12 is toying around with the idea of selling the naming rights of their conference. They're toying around with the selling of logos on the field.
Correct.
That might be what the ACC needs to do as well, right? They may need to make a lot of money by selling the naming rights of that conference. But here's the thing. The SEC and the Big Ten may say to themselves right now, we're above that. We don't need to do that. But what happens when the Big 12 and the ACC pull even or relatively even with their revenue? They get to say, oh, yeah, you think you're gonna pull even with us money-wise? We'll go sell the naming rights to our conference and then blow the doors off of you.
I have a question about something I thought Don Munson said, but I want to get to this text first from the 803. Texter says, Graham Neff is just going to collect the Infinity Stones and make the rest of the ACC disappear. That's correct. Maybe it was a year or so ago on the previous show, didn't y'all have a promo running of Don Munson talking about, I think you or somebody, I think you asked him about where Clemson would be in 4 to 6 years, and he said very clearly he didn't think they'd be in the ACC.
Well, he said he didn't believe that the ACC would exist in its present form in 10 years. So Don is under the impression that all of this is going to get blown up, that the Infinity Gauntlet is going to be collected, the stones are going to be placed over the knuckles, Thanos is going to snap his fingers, and all of this is going to change.
You know, it's so fascinating because Clemson's kind of in a lose-lose situation right now. You know, I mean, obviously, if they got out, it would be a win. But in terms of lose-lose, there's not much going. When I say lose-lose, there's not much going Clemson's way right now. And I mean, tell me what advantages after this has been denied today. Again, if you just tuned in, breaking news about 2 hours ago. A North Carolina judge has denied Clemson's motion to stay, says case must continue in North Carolina. There's just not much going on or not much going in the way of Clemson, and that's what really scares me.
We have a texter that got in and said, what about the Pac-2, all but football, moving down to the West Coast Conference? Would the Big 12 take them in and maybe even Clemson? Yeah, this kind of got me the other day, texter. I was scrolling through my phone, through Twitter, sports Twitter, and I saw, oh, wow. It would be Washington State and who is it? The other one, Oregon State, headed to the West Coast Conference, and I was like, "What? Oh, it's just for Olympic sports. It's not for football." I was blown away, and I was like, "Wow, the West Coast just." I mean, I figured if anything, they're going to the they were going to the Mountain West. But yeah, all those non-football sports are going to the West Coast Conference, which I think is probably fine for those sports. I mean, like, does it really matter? Does Oregon State really care if they're competing against
probably not
maybe San Jose State? I don't even know who's in the West Coast Conference, right? Competing against San Jose State versus Idaho, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Would the Big 12 take Clemson and Florida State in? Well, that's not a completely implausible idea there, texter. There is certainly a possibility that the Big 12 would say, guess what? We want to stretch coast to coast on the southern half of the United States the way that the Big 10 does on the northern half of the United States. We want to stretch coast to coast, and we think Clemson and Florida State. See, we've always been talking about their expansion into the SEC as market saturation in the states of South Carolina and Florida. But for the Big 12, as far as they're concerned, that is new market penetration. I understand they already have UCF, but really Florida State would be the cherry on top for the eastern side of that conference. So you're not wrong, texter. There is some real viability there if the Big 12 can afford it. And that's the thing, is they got to be willing to foot Clemson and Florida State's bill to get out of the ACC.
And here's what's fascinating. Is there any potential of that $140 million? Because it sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But before we hit a break, I just asked the question. $140 million, basically, as I understand Diesel, Clemson could hand them a check for $140 and say peace, right? I mean, pretty much. Obviously, there's some other things in there that might have to be worked out, but I think that's the financial penalty.
So I assume, though, that money stays the same all the way up until 2036. It's not like one of those things that reduces over time, right?
Yeah, it's not like a buyout.
Right.
And I don't know that it is. I mean,
it's not like it's 140 down, it becomes 120 next year, and then it becomes 100 the year after that.
No, I haven't read anything that it is some sort of declining number, but it's really fascinating. I just think that somehow, some way, to put a bow on it, before 2036, it's a lot of money. $140 million. It is astronomical, but I'm telling you, I think before then, they'll find the money. I really do.
Really? That is a fascinating question, and I think as time goes along, Cole, they may get closer and closer to doing it. When we come back, we had an article that we talked about yesterday, Dennis Dodd from CBS, stating that Dabo Swinney's seat is beginning to get a little warm, and Clemson Insider went after that. I want to examine that. What could happen to actually warm Dabo Swinney's seat in 2024? That's next on the Fan Upstate.
I'm going to change mine to a... What's wrong?
don't know about you, Cole. I never believe that anyone in this business of coaching or radio, for that matter, is ever truly safe. Like, there's no such thing as an untouchable coach. Is there? Maybe if we're talking about 40, 50 years ago,
I wouldn't say
you got untouchable
no.
coaches. I mean, back then coaches could get away with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But we had an article yesterday from Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports talking about hot seat levels, warm seat levels for coaches all across the country. And he went down the board, all 130 some odd FBS schools there are now, and graded these coaches on whether or not their seats were warm. 0 means you are untouchable. Nothing you could do is really going to affect that. But in his ratings, Cole, of Dabo Swinney, he said his seat might be getting a little bit warm this year. There's some things that he could do this year that may cause his seat to get a little bit warm. And then our local media publication, Clemson Insider, went after Dennis Dodd in his article, stating that Dabo Swinney's seat beginning to get warm is, quote, laughable. So I want to talk about it in this segment. What would it take in a realistic setting? Like, of course, if he goes 0-12, that seat is hot as could be, right?
Yeah.
But we realistically have no reason to believe anything like that is even approachable for this season for Clemson. So let's talk about it in a realistic standpoint. What could happen that starts to heat up Dabo Swinney's seat just a little bit? You know, Dabo's seat is kind of like cooking a frog. You put it in that room temperature water, and then you bring it up to a boil slowly. Otherwise, the frog's going to jump out. And, like, Dabo Swinney's seat is not warm this year yet. But I believe that there is a path, Cole, that if certain things happen, and this is kind of a nightmare scenario for Clemson, again, not an 0-12 season, that I think it is plausible. I think that it is plausible. And I know Dabo Swinney knows that his seat is not warm by any stretch.
Well, first of all, I don't think even if he did go 0-12, there wouldn't be Clemson media that said, there's no way his seat's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not being specific to any outlet, but for a long, long time, it's just been very comical to watch how hard those Clemson media just fall in love with their coaches. And to say it's laughable, that his seat could become hot, that's a joke. Like, you can't say that because guess what? Anything could happen this season. It could go really bad. I don't think it will. It could go really bad. So you can't just rule that out and say, oh, there's no way it's going to happen.
All we want here is objectivity.
Well, you're not going to get it with Clemson media.
That's all we're looking for. Hey, look, I know that there was probably a very large lack of objectivity in Tuscaloosa over the past decade and a half while Nick Saban was there. I'm sure there was a very tiny bit of objectivity in Tuscaloosa back when Bear Bryant was doing his thing, winning a lot of national championships. Same in Florida, same out there in Southern Cal when Pete Carroll was doing his thing. But I do believe, Cole, that there is a path that starts to turn up the heat on Dabo Swinney this year. And I'm not talking about a scandal that's just gonna grab that dial and twist it all the way up. So let's start, Cole, very simply. Wins and losses. There is a path, wins and losses, that could start to heat up Dabo Swinney's seat. And I don't believe we're talking about getting to the point where Dabo's getting fired.
Sure.
I'm saying that seat starts to get warm. So let's start right there with week number 1. If Georgia victimizes Clemson, and I'm talking beats the ever-loving crap out of them, I think that really kind of starts to turn things up just a little bit. We had Kelly Ford on the show yesterday, and he told us that his model gives Georgia an 85% chance to win that game. 85%. That ought to be embarrassing to Clemson fans.
Well, it is.
Only having a 15% chance to beat a rival down the road should be embarrassing to that fan base.
It is embarrassing. And to answer your question about Georgia, if Clemson were to get curb stomped, then maybe I could say, okay, there's some heat. However, if Clemson loses the game within, 15 to 20 points, I don't think there's any warmth on the seat for Dabo, and I'll tell you why. You're supposed to lose that game.
No, right.
You know, if Clemson was the favorite if the roles were reversed in Atlanta, Georgia this season, Clemson was a heavy favorite. They went down 85 and got their butts whooped. Then yeah, I'd say the seat's really, really hot.
No, just losing to Georgia is not gonna change anything. Georgia has victimized Clemson over the years. Total record 43-18, and Clemson's not on the good side of that 43-18. Georgia has won 7 out of the last 8 matchups against Clemson. You're an underdog in this game. Georgia is riding as high as any team possibly can. So they just lose this game by 15 points.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing happens. Dabo Swinney still at a 0 on the heat scale. But I believe, Cole, if they get blown out by Georgia, and to me a blowout is, in college at least, we went over this a couple weeks ago, is at least 21 points, and that's not including any garbage time scores to extend the lead to 21 or a garbage time score to bring the lead down inside 21. I think if that happens, if they get blown out by 21 plus, I mean, don't even look competitive in that game, I think the dial goes to a 1. I think the dial goes to a 1. Again, still nothing to worry about from a getting fired standpoint.
Sure.
But I think that's when Graham Neff kind of really starts taking notice. He's like, oh, we're not competitive against Georgia. You know, we played a really tight game against them last year. It was boring as hell, but it was a tight game. Last time we played them, it was a competitive football game. But now, we don't have anything for the best program in college football. We are not on their level anymore. How about losing to Georgia in Atlanta, Cole, and then losing the follow-up week? I don't think that's likely. And I've said it 100 times. It's my team. I'm not being a homer here. I don't think it's likely that Clemson takes an L week 2 to App State. But if they get blown out in week 1, they're feeling bad about themselves, and then they don't take App State seriously in week 2, I think there is some potential. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that does happen. Now the national media is all over this. Our phone lines are flooded. Our text lines are flooded. The sky is falling. How did a transfer JUCO quarterback at a G5 school beat us like that? I think that turns it up again.
So, listen, the reality of it is, if Clemson loses to Georgia and then the next week at home in their home opener, and again, I agree with you, I don't think it's going to happen. I'd bet a lot of money that it won't happen, but just for the sake of argument, if you were to tell me they start 0-2, look, I don't want to hear no 2 or 3. You crank. I'm not kidding. If you lose to App State, are you kidding me? Like, if I'm an AD and I lose to, no disrespect to App State, but if I lose to Georgia and App State and I'm Clemson, and if I'm the AD, my coach isn't getting in his office, the doors, the locks changed. I mean, are you kidding
Seriously,
me? Yes.
You're firing Dabo Swinney
if it's
after
me,
week 2.
You don't lose to Georgia and App State. Yeah,
Wow.
If that happened.
Well, I think, Cole, if you get beat by Georgia and it's not particularly close, and then you come back and you win convincingly in week 2, that dial turns back down to a 0. Right?
Well, it shouldn't, but it probably will.
No harm, that's the way they'll look at it. I mean, Graham Neff, he is certainly a Dabo Swinney cheerleader, so he's going to look at it like, oh, okay, well, we weren't competitive against Georgia. I mean, they're just on a different planet than we are right now. But that's okay. We came back and we beat App State at home by 21. All is well. Everything is fine. Georgia was just a blip. Now what happens, Cole, if you go to week number 3? Now we're into conference play. Now we're into schools that are probably realistically, talent-wise, not that far off from you. NC State. But you got another transfer quarterback leading the charge for NC State. You lose to NC State, even if you're 1-2 at that point, or 2-1, at that point. 2-1 with a blowout loss to Georgia. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 1-2 with a blowout loss to Georgia and a loss to NC State, no matter how much the point spread is. Now that heat meter's turned up to a 2.
So you're saying if you were to lose to Georgia, beat App, and then lose to NC State.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. A 1-2 record there. And every Clemson fan's faith that Dabo Swinney can still lead Clemson and be at the top of the ACC, I don't care what they say, it's gone. Listen, NC State's a good team.
Yeah,
NC State has a lot of talent. And that September 21st game, that's not going to be an easy game for Clemson at all. I'd be intrigued to see what the point spread is when it comes out after the App State game. But no, that's not going to be an easy game. So sadly, the potential, if Cade Klubnik doesn't improve vastly, the potential of them starting 1-2, it's not as far-fetched as a lot of people would think. And then to answer your question, yeah, there'd be that point in the season is pretty much a wash. And I hate to say that, but it's a wash.
It pretty much is, and it really doesn't matter what you do after that. I mean, I'm not going to go game by game for the entire season. There's no point in that. I think Stanford is an easy win, but, they're a nobody. They're new to this league. You should beat the tar out of Stanford. And then there's that 5-game stretch of ACC play where I think you're pretty safe against Wake Forest and Virginia, Pitt, Virginia Tech. I think you're pretty safe in that stretch. Of course, Citadel after that. The real sticking point, Cole, is that midseason matchup on the road at Florida State against your former quarterback who is now a 2-time transfer. Oh, boy, you lose that one. Spice level goes through the roof. I mean, that is sitting on the toilet for days singing a Johnny Cash song with that burning ring of fire because that heat level is up.
And that's kind of my point back to the NC State game, because you have a very real possibility of losing to Florida State on October 5th. So that September 21st NC State game, I hate to put it like this, but that is a huge game for Clemson when you talk about playoff contention, because here's the deal. They're already going to have one loss on September 21st. Mm-hmm. So if you lose the NC State game and then you look, 3 weeks later to October 5th, 2 weeks later, you're done. You're cooked.
Yeah.
There's no way of coming back. So that's my point. In order for the Florida State game to still matter, you have to beat NC State, and you better not sleepwalk against Stanford. I know they're relatively new to the conference, or very new, but they're still, they still have athletes, and you're still going to have to show up. The Florida State game's massively huge. If you lose that, and all of a sudden you have 2 losses, maybe 3, it's just it's going to be a bad, long season for Clemson if that were the case.
Yeah, and part of it is because they are traditional conference foes, NC State, Florida State. But another part of that, Cole, is they are transfer-heavy teams. Florida State is relying on the transfer portal. NC State has a portal quarterback as their QB. So I think that puts you in a really tight spot. And if you don't look good against South Carolina, another school that is very heavy in the transfer portal, that starts to put Graham Neff into a place where he has to put Dabo Swinney into a corner, which is change or else.
Yeah,
and Dabo's going to say, well, I'm not changing.
I'll tell you this.
Okay, let's go to the or else option then.
There is a small percentage of Clemson fans, but there's a percentage of Clemson fans that will be okay getting the tar beat out of them by Florida State just so Dabo can have the point proven that this is the way college football has turned to. This is the way you're stuck in. You just got beat 42-17. Your way, Dabo, doesn't work. I'm telling you, it's not a large majority, but there are some Clemson fans that would love to see that, because they do. Believe it or not, there are Clemson fans who have common sense. There are some Clemson fans that are right in the mind that aren't, it doesn't matter what Dabo does if he doesn't adapt. There are some Clemson fans that are sick and tired of Dabo's inability to adapt.
Well, and those people also are the kinds of fans that allow a coach to get to megalomaniac status. They'll allow a guy to get to Joe Paterno status. And again, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to paint Dabo Swinney and Joe Paterno into the same room. All I'm saying is that allows any coach, when he has so much power, that fans can look at him and say, no matter what he does, he's never going to lose my support. That's when you get yourself in a really dangerous territory, Cole. And the last thing I want to bring up here, if Dabo Swinney has to make a quarterback change midseason again, because if Cade Klubnik ultimately shows yet again this season that he is not capable of taking that next step, and I'm not saying he has to be some world beater type of quarterback, but if he shows himself through week 4, 5, 6 of the season that he's not progressing, that he's not changing, and Dabo Swinney has to go to a backup again, which has become his MO over the past 3 or 4 seasons. Kelly Bryant to DJ to Cade, then possibly Cade to Christopher, or Cade to Trent Pierman. That reflects directly on what and who Dabo Swinney is and how he chooses to run this program. So I'm looking at that, Cole. If that starts to happen, if it looks like we're going down that road, that's when things internally start to get really uncomfortable for Dabo.
Texter from the 993 says, been doing some day drinking, boys? Texter, look, the point of the question was to ask, What would it take to turn the knob up, to turn the heat up on Dabo's hot seat? I understand that a lot of the things we're saying are not realistic. We're not saying this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. We're saying if the hot seat were to get really hotter, this would have to happen.
The same texter also says Clemson was about 10 crucial fumbles away from having an even better season. 10 crucial fumbles? Are you serious, texter? Who's doing the day drinking over here? Okay, first of all, I don't deal in hypotheticals. I don't give a rip what you think might have happened if these 10 things hadn't gone wrong for us. First of all, 10 things? Like, if you're telling me if this one thing hadn't gone wrong for us, our season would be different.
That sounds like Dabo.
Okay, but 10 things?
That's like saying if I went bankrupt 10 times, if I wouldn't have gone bankrupt 10 times, I'd probably be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Really. If I wouldn't have gone bankrupt those 10 times back in the 90s, I'd probably be a millionaire by now.
Yeah.
Listen, texter, just so you know, you may already know this. I'm a Clemson fan. Does it sound like it? No, because I'm not. I don't drink the orange juice every day when I wake up out of bed. I don't put the sunglasses on every day when I wake up out of bed, just like a lot of Clemson fans do. I'm not saying these things are going to happen, but the question was, this is sports radio, by the way, entertainment. The question was, what has to happen in order for that seat to get turned up?
Yeah, and the truth is, Cole, if a Serbian rebel hadn't shot Archduke Franz Ferdinand, we might not have had 2 world wars. Well, guess what? It happened. So we can't go. This is not like a Marvel cartoon that's airing on the Disney Channel, right, where you can do a what-if scenario. That doesn't exist, texter. I don't give a rip about your what-if. So there you go.
Real quick, texter, Trey in Kentucky says 3 losses and the heat is on, is what Trey in Kentucky says about Dabo's hot seat.
I think Dabo, at very minimum, I think this has to be back to a 10-win season.
Well, they lose 4 last year.
They went, 9-4?
I think so, yeah.
9-4, I believe.
So 3 loss. I mean, yeah, Trey, I don't disagree with you. Mantis says Clemson's defense will keep them in the game against Georgia. Personally, I don't think they win the game, but for Dabo's seat to get warm, they'll have to go 6-6 or worse. Wow.
See, that I completely disagree with that. I mean, there has to be levels to this. I don't believe in going to the full in-game crazy scenario before the seat even starts to get warm. I think 8 wins, anything 8 or fewer, and that seat's starting to get warm. It's not hot. Again, I want to be clear about that. I'm not saying the seat is hot, but 8 or fewer wins, which, again, don't believe is plausible. But if we get there, Katie barred the door. He's in trouble.
The whole thing is the majority of Clemson fans, and I don't know if the administration feels this way or not, the perception's reality, right? The perception is it does not matter what Dabo Swinney does. He's safe. If he wins 3 or if he wins 30, it doesn't matter. That's the perception, and that's why a lot of people have issue with it, because Clemson fans defend him till the day's done. Graham Neff, I don't know. I'm sure he'll defend him, unless the season really turns tragic. But the perception is reality in this point, and that's why it's not good to have this sort of relationship where you're pretty much untouchable. I don't think it's healthy.
Well, this texter is entered to the point of argumentative. He says, you just did a whole segment on what ifs with regards to turning the heat up. Yeah, but my what if texter is pointing forwards. I'm predicting what could happen over the course of this season. You want to go back and change the past. You can't change the past. There is no changing the past. The past is the past. Those, your words, not mine, those 10 fumbles happened. Those games were lost. You can't change that. I'm predicting what could happen if things don't go Clemson's way. If they have just another year next year or this year, like they had last year, that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
See, we're predicting the future, not changing the past.
And again,
that's what you want to do, is change the past.
And again, I'm not even saying these things that we discussed are going to happen, Texter, but Diesel's question was, what would have to happen in order for that knob on that hot seat to be turned up? So we're just telling you, hypothetically, what would have to happen in the future. I'm not saying they'll lose to Georgia and NC State. I don't think they will lose both of them. But we're saying what would have to happen.
Another texter here says, hypothetically speaking, Clemson beats Georgia. What say you? Well, Clemson beats Georgia. They're back, right?
Oh, God.
They're back. I mean, that proves that they've got enough talent to go toe-to-toe with and beat the best teams in the country.
If you beat the best team in the country, I'm not saying you're automatically the best team in the country, but guess what? You're pretty good. I mean,
what did Kelly tell us yesterday? They could beat Georgia by 70, and it still wouldn't be enough to move them inside the top 4 in the country in his power ratings.
Because there's so many things that go into that.
Yep.
Sure. It's fascinating, Texters. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the text. I love the conversation because it's so juicy. It really is. So we'll continue. Listen, until he starts winning or he adapts, we'll continue to talk about it. All right, speaking of winning, Cooper Flagg. You know who that is? Well, if you're a basketball fan like I am, you probably know who Cooper Flagg is. And the level of hype that Cooper Flagg had, you talk about that knob increasing, it just went up drastically. We'll tell you what happened to the Duke commit on Monday next on Wire to Wire. Well, Cooper Flagg, as we all know, is not one of. He is the most hyped high school product, number one player in the country, coming out in the 2024 class, a Duke commit. And the video, the highlights, Diesel, that I saw of him on Monday, wow. When he stepped on the floor, if you don't know what happened, Cooper Flagg, high school graduate who will be at Duke in the fall, got invited to Las Vegas to work out with Team USA on Monday. That just doesn't happen normally. They don't usually invite just high school kids, but Cooper Flagg, long story short, went out there in a scrimmage against Anthony Davis and LeBron and the best players on the planet and balled out. I mean, balled out. The highlights were sensational. He was just shooting threes in AD's face like it was nothing. And listen, he's going up against guys who are Hall of Famers, more mature than he is, twice his age. All of those things. And this kid, I know he has a lot of hype, but if we want to talk about someone who might be the next guy, I think you have him. Here's what Kevin Durant, Brandon, this will be cut one. Here's what KD had to say after playing against him on Monday. Diesel, this guy had like stone cold killer instinct on the floor. And I watched this morning, and, I love the NBA, but I was just mesmerized at how good. Again, it's one game, but he's playing against Team USA, and he was probably one of the best players on the floor.
6'8", 195 pounds, going into college. I mean, that is the prototype perfect size for a shooting guard, for a power forward, somebody who, it depends on what Duke wants to do with him, right? Do they want to keep him trim, which would certainly help him out a lot in the NBA? Do they want to bulk him up, which would certainly be helpful for Duke in the college game? I think this guy's got so much versatility and where he could go with his career. And I'm watching highlights right now, and man, he is a man amongst boys in this game that these highlights that I'm watching.
Here's the deal. To answer your question, what will Duke do with him? Well, Duke and John Shire will only have the summer, the fall, and then December hits. They'll turn around, play March Madness, and then he's gone.
Peace out.
Yeah, he won't be there more than a year. So I don't know how much. Don't get me wrong. He needs to put on a little weight, I think, in terms of muscle.
Unless
for
there's
the NBA.
A tremendous amount of NIL money coming his way that can keep him at Duke a little bit longer. There's no way. At most they're keeping that guy for 2 years.
No, and there will be a tremendous amount of NIL money thrown his way. There's no doubt about that, but I do not think – I would bet right now that there's no way he's there more than a year. But I'll tell you this. It excites me as somebody who loves the NBA. And you know how college basketball last year just completely lacked stars across the league? I can't wait for that at Duke. I can't wait to see him in college. I wish he'd stay for 4. He won't. He'll be there 1, and then he'll probably leave. And then I look forward to seeing him again in the NBA, because when you go against guys, most high school players playing against Team USA would probably be a little intimidated. Not this guy. It was absolutely phenomenal what he did.
Yeah, that's one thing that college basketball has got to figure out. How do we make stars out of guys that we've only got for a limited period of time, right? Yeah. It's just this sort of like, it's this self-defeating prophecy where you get a guy, you bring him in, you make a star out of him, boom, that guy's going to the NBA immediately, and all of a sudden we got to start over. And it puts college in a really tough place. Do I ever think we go back to the day where there's legislation that keeps guys in college longer? No, I don't know that there's a whole lot they can do about it. So, we are at the NCAA is at the mercy of virality with these players, and hoping that social media can make stars out of them, because they're not going to keep them for long.
And real quick, before we hit a break, we were told by Jay Wilson, our sales rep, to make up clues. So we're going to make up one clue because Melissa's on vacation this week. So the clue for hour number 1, Diesel, is this item can work inside the store as well as outside the store. That's clue number 1. This item can be used just like it is inside as well as outside. Text Actually, don't text. Come by where we are right here at Ingles. The address is, I have it right here, unless it is 429 East Main Street at Ingles and Liberty. Again, first clue, this product can be used inside and outside. Stay tuned for 3 more clues coming up.
Guess what, Tolos? It is road trip season. Now with just a couple of weeks before kids go back to school, now is the time that a lot of parents all over the upstate, they're taking their kids to the beach. They're going to the mountains. They're going to see grandma.
I'm so ready for my kids to go back to school, man.
Is that what you call it when you do your morning bathroom business? Dropping the kids off at school?
Dropping the kids off.
Oh, it's happening, people. And guess what? If you have the Odyssey app on your smartphone, you can take the Fan Upstate with you everywhere you go. It's very simple. You just open the app, type in the Fan Upstate, boom, turn it into a favorite. And every time you open the app, you see us immediately. And it's super easy to just click on it and start listening to the Rob Brown Show and Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, the Jim Rome Show as well. But I'm telling you, the Odyssey app is one that you definitely need to have on your smartphone. It's going to be the best app you have on there, especially, again, Cole, because those summer road trips are coming up, and wherever it is you're going to go, you know that the sports stations there are going to suck if they even have one at all. So you take us with you. Cole, we just got done celebrating not 6 days ago, kicking England's ass.
Yeah.
4th of July.
It was fun.
So the question is, why should we as Americans give a rip what an English newspaper says are the 9 best road trips that you could go on in America? Like, who are they?
They have newspapers in England?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I think they write it down on a fish or something like that. Yeah. They put it on fish scales and they just chuck it on people's front doors. But no, it's Daily Mail. You probably heard of them. It's a massive publication. But they put together a list of the top 9 best road trips that you should go on if you're going to America.
Not 10.
No, not 10. 9. It said 10, but then when I went through and counted it, I was like, who taught them how to count? They're one short. They only got 9 of these things. So these idiots over there, they don't even know how to count all the way.
So we're listening
all the way to 10.
People from England.
Yeah, we are. But I do want to mention a few of these, but I want to ask the Tolos. But I want to ask you, because I'm not the best at being creative and coming up with good road trips for Ashley and I to go on. She's really good at that. Like, I'm not good at it. She's like, oh, I heard about this place in this town on the other side of the state. We should definitely go check that out. I'm like, where do you hear about
You're
these
not
things?
on Pinterest.
And 9 times out of 10, it's TikTok. It's
yeah.
Pinterest. It's Instagram. Like, she told me yesterday, she goes, oh, I found this town that's really close to your hometown up in North Carolina that's got this restaurant that's run by cultists. We should go.
Wow.
What? Why would I want to go to that? But I mean, it's apparently it's right there next to my hometown, and it's a great road trip. So you Tolos, help me out. Make me look like the smart one here for a minute. What is the best road trip that you can go on? 1 day road trip.
Ooh, 1 day.
Single day road trip.
Oh, wow.
In and around the state of South Carolina. If we venture into North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, that's fine. But I want somewhere I can go, do the thing, and come back in 1 day. Tolos, I need your suggestions. I need your help. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan.
I challenge the Tolos to find a better road trip than from right here in the upstate than Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. Try to find a better road trip. You're not going to. I'm sorry. Now, there's a lot of good ones. I
love Pigeon Forge. I don't love Gatlinburg.
Well, it's a little bit. I love Pigeon Forge. Pigeon Forge is great.
I call it Gatlinburg the Myrtle Beach in the mountains.
Well, maybe a little bit. But the whole area, right? Like Sevierville. I love Sevierville, man. Just getting out there. And it just feel like you're in a different world.
I drive all the way up there just for the mountain coasters.
Yeah. Sure.
I heard rumor that we were getting one of those here in the upstate, that they were going to build one somewhere in the upstate, but to my knowledge, it never came to fruition. And that makes me sad because I think mountain coasters are a blast. Tolos, what is your favorite single-day road trip in the state of South Carolina or into adjoining states? Where would you go? Let's see here. Is Holiday Brewing in Inman on the list? The list of what, Texter? The list
day
of
trips,
what?
Road trips? Now, it would have been on yesterday's list for favorite spots in the upstate.
Could have been,
right?
yeah. Could have been.
So he says it's awesome. Come on, Diesel and Cole. We appreciate maybe this guy owns it.
You don't really have to twist my arm too much to go to a brewery. I love going to breweries. I love finding all the delicious beers all over the area.
So I did not drink. I did eat the wings. It was the wings were good.
At Holiday?
At Holiday, yeah.
Okay.
So Helen, Georgia gets sent in by the 407.
I want to go. I haven't figured out where to do this.
I'm sure you start in Helen somewhere, but I haven't found it. I've been into Helen a couple times. We go down to Blue Ridge, Georgia, every now and again, and we got to pass through Helen. There's no way really to get to where we're going without passing through Helen. But I see all these people tubing through Helen. I want to do that. I want to go tubing through Helen. I mean, imagine being able to tube. I know we brought this up on the show before, and it always gets shot down because people say, "Oh, the water's dirty," whatever. I want to be able to tube down the Reedy River into downtown Greenville, like start in TR, tube to Greenville. I understand that a lot has to happen for that to be possible.
Well, those are good.
But I think that would be great, don't you?
Those are good in the summertime. Yeah. You know, obviously in the winter, those kind of disqualify themselves. But that's, you know, I
don't like tubing in frigid water?
I haven't done it yet. I would rather be in waders with a shotgun and do it, but it's still fun. Now, look, tubing during the summer, especially up at the Green River, that hasn't been suggested yet for favorite. I guess that counts as like a favorite drive, but that's a good one. You know, there's Triple Falls is another good one. I like going up there. It's no time from Spartanburg. You can get up there in less than an hour. And waterfalls, hiking trails,
love it.
Fishing.
I want to get out in nature as much as I possibly can. Texter says Atlanta. Well, what about Atlanta? He also says Charlotte.
The Braves, I guess.
What about Charlotte? I mean, we're not going to Charlotte for sports. That's for damn sure. Helen, Georgia, says the texter. Texter. Helen. I don't get along with Helen on the streets very much, but tubing through Helen, that seems great to me. Nashville. You can't day trip to Nashville and back, can you?
If you
that
do,
is a haul.
Nashville. I was telling somebody in our station the other day, Nashville's one of the worst drives ever. I think it was our boss.
Is you get to that certain point and there ain't nothing for hours,
and it's a good 5-6 hours.
Oh,
so
no.
Whoever road trips 5 or 6 hours, what are you going to do? Sit up there for a couple hours and come back? Nashville does not count in my mind. Charleston does.
Day trip to Chattanooga, that's doable.
Yeah,
that's easy to do.
Yeah.
It's a long drive though.
Yeah,
and it's not as the crow flies. It's just long because you got to go all the way to Atlanta and up, or you got to take the windy way through the mountains, and it's going to take you a long time. For a day trip, I would rather be there in 3 hours or less. I got 5-6 hours that I could spend there, and then it's 3 hours back.
So Charleston was also sent in on the text line 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I've done that many a times. Day trip to Charleston, leave at like 7. You get there when the state park opens at 9 or 10. You're out there all day. During the summertime, it don't get dark till 9 o'clock. You can leave at 8 and be home by 11. Charleston's a great one.
Yep, we got a lot of texters throwing out some fantastic outdoor spots to go. John Dog says rent a pontoon at Lake Jocassee and camp there.
Yes.
It's a best kept secret. Well, not anymore, John Dog. Now that you let the secret out of the bag.
He's right. And John Dog, I was in Salem because I saw you said Salem about on there. I was in Salem over the 4th, but at Kiowee, not Jocassee, and Kiowee, Jocassee both are the worst kept secret now because of how amazing they are. So,
let's see. Rafting down Texter. Texter, I hope you're using text-to-speech, but he says rafting down Nana Hala. Nana as in like what you would call your grandma, Nana, and Hala. Hayla. Second one down. Savannah, Georgia, says JT in Greer. Chimney Rock and Lake Lure, says another texter. Okay,
Chimney Rock, Lake Lure's
here's what the English think are the best road trips in the United States. Now, I don't expect that a lot of our Tolos have done most of these. We just want to go down the list real quick. The 3-hour drive from Flagstaff, Arizona, out to the Grand Canyon. Yeah, you got me. I would go to that. That seems great. Colorado Springs out to Great Sand Dunes National Park. I've seen photos of that, man. It's just like this huge landscape, and everything looks sandy and white, just sandy rolling hills. It looks absolutely beautiful. A couple of road trips in Hawaii are listed here. Boston to Cape Cod. You want to go get yourself some chowder. You can stop by Plymouth Rock on your way. There's only two of them listed in the South. And I don't know if I would have to fly into this place and then do the road trip, but they say Nashville to Chattanooga. They say that's the number 6 best road trip in America.
That's terrible.
Number 6. Okay. Number 4 on the list was Boston to Cape Cod. Number 5, Buffalo to Niagara Falls. I'm with you on that, but I'm flying to Buffalo and I'm driving to Niagara Falls. I'm not road tripping all the way. Nashville to Chattanooga, number 6. And, of course, they're like starting the bars in Nashville and then just stop by a couple of waterfalls on your way. You have me at waterfalls and state parks. You're losing me at go into some crummy, filthy, stinky bar in Nashville. Sacramento to Lake Tahoe, number 7 on the list. Number 8, and I've made this road trip before. I don't get it. I don't get this road trip. New Orleans to Baton Rouge is nothing but swamp and interstate from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, and it stinks. No way. No way am I doing that unless I've flown into New Orleans and I'm driving out to Baton Rouge for an LSU game. I'm doing that. That sounds like a blast to me.
I'll tell you what should have been on the list. I drove one time from Dallas to Phoenix, and the drive from Dallas to Phoenix, it is.
Did you have a rocket car?
No, it's not a day trip, so it does kind of exclude that. Now, here's why I say that though. Dallas is on the east side of Texas, right? Well, it takes like 8 to 9 hours to get from Dallas to El Paso, same state, right? But once you get to El Paso,
that's all it takes longer than that to get across Texas, doesn't it?
8 or 9 hours.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, from El Paso to Phoenix, the drive is doable in a day, and it is phenomenal. Seeing New Mexico and seeing Arizona, literally seeing those, what are those big things that blow across in the desert?
Tumbleweeds.
Yeah, that's a great drive.
Yeah, I'm going out to New Mexico here in a couple of weeks. Going to spend some time.
Oh, really?
Hopefully driving all over the state, going up to the northeast corner of the state, Los Alamos.
You're driving to New Mexico?
No.
Holy.
No. But families out there, we're going to spend some time in New Mexico. See, this texter's got it right here. He says, please explain why England is giving advice on places to go visit in America. You got a point there,
right.
texter.
That is the point.
But remember, this is an English newspaper geared to English people, and I'm sure they're not going to find a whole lot of places to get fish and chips in America to keep them happy. The English mind cannot comprehend the truck stop in America.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine somebody from London going into a Buc-ee's or going into south of the border over there near Myrtle Beach?
I'd like for a person from London to go to a sit-go on Myrtle Beach on the corner of like right there downtown. Let's get them accustomed. I mean, come on now.
Texter says, how about the ride from Lafayette to Ruston, Louisiana? Some of the worst areas in Louisiana. Well, you're talking about northern Louisiana. That's basically southern Arkansas. And there's like a million places that I'd rather be than southern Arkansas. But, hey, good ideas, texters. I appreciate all the people. Isle of Palms, Charleston's the best place to go. Let's see, so many. Savannah. Can you really properly day trip to Savannah? That's a long way to go.
Okay, this is not fair.
You can day trip to Charleston. You can day trip to Charleston. It's still a long way to go.
From where we're sitting right now in Liberty, Savannah's 4. So I guess from the upstate or closer to Spartanburg, Greenville is 3.
I feel like you get up real early.
Yeah.
You drive down there. You hang out for 5-6 hours, and then you can turn around and come back. That's a long way to go, though, for like 5 hours worth of hangout party time, right?
It is. And I'm not a big Savannah guy. Like I've been a couple times. I like Charleston better. Really, to be honest with you, I like Charleston better than Savannah. And I said it. I'll say it again. Savannah's nice, but it stinks. Mm-hmm. There's nothing really. I don't know.
Is there a paper mill down there somewhere?
Yeah, it's bad. It's terrible.
That's the last place I want to go. Beautiful, beautiful buildings, but a stinky ambiance.
Yeah, that's rough.
But want to remind you again, Tolos, as you're setting up for your late summer road trips, make sure you have the Odyssey app on your smartphone. You can plug it into your car stereo, links up with your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto, whatever it is you got, and you can listen to us. Hazel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire everywhere you go.
Texter 993 that said Chimney Rock and Lake Lure, that's the best ride in terms of getting there quick. Like Triple Falls and all that, Green River's quick too, but Chimney Rock and Lake Lure, I went a month ago or so, and that is the best. Like it is so – if you live in Spartanburg, northern Spartanburg County like I do, and you can get 26 to Landrum, you could be in Chimney Rock in no time. It's the absolute best drive. I love it. Have you been? Chimney Rock?
To Chimney Rock? I don't know that I've been to Chimney Rock.
So Chimney Rock's where it has the big lake underneath, and you have to go by the lake, Lake Lure. You have to go around the lake to get up to Chimney Rock. Then you take a left and you go up. The hike to Chimney Rock, when you get there, there's two things. People go for the view, but I go – Gary wants to chime in. We'll get to Gary in just a second. Diesel, when you get to Chimney Rock, you have two choices, just in case you and your wife ever go. You get there, you park. You can ride the van like everybody does to the top because people go for the view, or you can stay to the right and hike up. That's what I do. And it's a phenomenal hike because you're the only one on the trail. There's nobody that hikes it. People are fat, and want to ride the bus.
Well, we established that yesterday.
We did. So it's a great view.
You can also road trip it down to Amicalola Falls in Georgia if you've ever been. It's a challenge. Amicalola. Yeah, it's a waterfall with 600 stairs from the bottom to the top, and you are hiking back and forth across the face of these falls.
Gary wants to chime in on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolina Span phone. What's up, Gary?
Love Max Patch.
Good call.
Make a good point there. Strong argument, Gary. Appreciate the phone call.
I like it. Yeah, we
really
appreciate
do.
It, why are they? I know it.
Who do they think they are?
And he's right though. Don't publish any of these hidden spots because so Lake Kiwi.
Well, that's fine. None of them are in South Carolina. None of the ones on their list.
That's what
Chattanooga to Nashville is the closest one.
So Gary's point, or no, not Gary. Somebody earlier in the text line about the Kiwi and Joe Cassie hidden secret. If you ever go, you may have already been, but Kiwi you can get on anytime.
Sure.
Joe Cassie, if you ever go, you have to get there super early in the morning because they only have one boat landing and they only let a certain amount of people on, and it gets full. 4th
I
of
love
July,
taking kayaks out there.
4th of July, 9 a.m., Joe Cassie was full.
Really? Closed
9 a.m. Closed. Done. I'm not kidding.
Well, that's good, though. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, it's good they kind of regulate it.
Yeah, you don't want to ruin the experience for everybody who's out there because it's so busy.
Right. Everybody else goes
smart.
Kiwi. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, I want to get to a piece that Todd Summers did on Peyton Mangum at South Carolina. Todd Summers of WSPA will join us right here on Wire to Wire. It is Wire to Wire. We are live on location today. We will have clue number 2 for you in a few moments after we talk to Todd Summers, but we are live at 429 East Main Street in Liberty. If you come out, we've already given you one clue. If you come out and guess what the product is that we're talking about, you can enter for a chance to win a $25 Ingles gift card. Can take care of your dinner tonight. Let's bring in Todd Summers of WSPA. He is a 3-time Emmy winner, 3-time South Carolina Sportscaster of the Year. Todd, before we get to your latest piece on Peyton Mangum, the last segment, we were asking our Tolos, our audience, what the best day road trip was from the upstate, where you could leave, come back in the same day. So what would Todd Summers say right here in the upstate the best day trip would be? That got my vote as well.
Todd, I know you've spent a little bit of time getting to know and covering Lenora Sellers leading up to his first full season as QB1 for South Carolina. We had an opportunity to talk with his coach, Ramon Robinson, a couple of weeks back here on the show, and we were so impressed with him, as we are every time we bring him on the show. But in your time getting to know Lenoris, what are your realistic expectations, your outlook for what he might be able to achieve in year one at South Carolina?
And those two ain't walking through the door anytime soon, Todd, are they? Yeah. Hey, I want to get to the piece that you did earlier in the week on Peyton Mangum, wide receiver for South Carolina. I don't want to spoil the story that you did. It was an incredible story as always, but talk about the story for Peyton Mangum coming out of high school right here in the upstate with no scholarship offers.
Todd Summers, sportscaster for WSPA TV, joining us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Obviously, we know about Dabo Sweeney's history as a walk-on at Alabama, so we know he values walk-ons a lot. In doing this story and having a chance to talk to Shane Beamer and guys around him, what do you know about Shane Beamer and how he values walk-ons inside his program?
Todd, another article, another piece, if you will, that I did enjoy was about former Clemson baseball player Keir Meredith, who played at Clemson and then spent 3 years in the minor league, 1 year right here in Greenville with the Greenville Drive, and now retired and is with the Pirates and is a first base coach with who? That would be Team USA. Great story, as you did on Keir Meredith. Can you talk about that one a little bit and how you got to catch up with Keir and what inspired that as well?
Todd Summers joining us here on the Fan Upstate from WSPA 7. Another great story that you covered. Player coming out of the Upstate headed down 26 to Columbia, Jordan Butler. We just spent a lot of time in the last segment, couple segments ago, talking about Cooper Flagg, a 6'8" guy who's heading to Duke to play basketball. Well, Jordan Butler is a 7-foot guy who can hit threes, who's headed to Columbia. I mean, the sky is the limit, right, for Lamont Paris and what he's building at South Carolina.
Todd, great stuff as always. We appreciate you taking time to hop on with us and tell those stories. That's what people want to hear, man, and we sure do appreciate it. Appreciate you as well. Absolutely. That's Todd Summers, WSPA 7. Appreciate him hopping on. A lot of good stories there. It just makes me want to sit down with a big book of all the South Carolina history. You know, we need just to capture all the history from this state from the past, 60 to 100 years, Diesel. Somebody needs to put that book together, you know?
I am fascinated to see what happens with the South Carolina men's basketball program this season. Knowing that, you know, you've got a lot of guys who are very, very familiar with each other from their time playing high school ball. And we saw what Lamont Paris was able to do last year, coaching an island of misfit toys. You know,
yeah.
In the previous year, his first year at South Carolina, he had the star that everybody thought was going to just blow the doors off of everything for South Carolina, and that didn't happen. And then he was able to piece everything together with a bunch of guys who didn't know each other, who hadn't spent a lot of time together, and he was able to have one of the biggest and best seasons that South Carolina basketball has ever had. So now you start adding in the element of familiarity. I've played with you before. I've played against you before. We know each other. We're all from the same place. We have shared experience. That's where I think South Carolina could really make strides. And Cole, you know, we talk about the way Dabo Sweeney is recruiting nationally, but maybe kind of ignoring the state of South Carolina just a little bit. And the way Shane Beamer has kind of put a wall around this state, and he is gobbling up the talent inside the state of South Carolina. I think Lamont Paris is showing that he can do the exact same thing.
No doubt.
And even if with a guy like we were just talking about a few seconds ago with him, Jordan Butler out of Christchurch, they may go somewhere else and they realize, you know what, there's a better opportunity and a better situation for me in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm going to go there, and it could really turn into something really special.
No doubt. We appreciate that. And look, Butler's a really good player. He's right. If he puts it all together, they're going to be really special. There's no doubt about that.
That's true. When we come back, Cole, we're going to take a whip around the sports world, do what we call our daily wires, the sports buzz around the upstate. That's coming up next here on the Fan Upstate. so much happening. Don't let anyone ever tell you that the off season is the dead season, because it is absolutely not. We go quick whip around in the sports world, everything that's happening that we don't necessarily have a time to get to on the show. We call it our Daily Wires. This is the sports buzz happening around here. The Atlanta Braves defeat the Arizona Diamondbacks last night 6-2 and are now sitting at 51-39 on the season. 2 runs in the second, 3 runs in the sixth. Adam Duvall went yard with a 3-run home run to left field in the 6th inning. Chris Sale got the win. He now leads Major League Baseball with 12 wins. We knew that starting pitching was just fine for the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, when your ace goes down, that hurts. But starting pitching has been just fine for the Braves this season. But late inning pitching has not been good. That was not the case last night in their 6-2 win over the Diamondbacks. Charlie Morton will get the start for Atlanta tonight.
We're back.
9:40.
Braves are back.
First pitch. I
jinxed it.
You just
No, we're
jinxed it,
back.
Cole.
We're totally back.
You can't say it out loud. We're back. They'll hear you. The Phillies demolished the Dodgers last night, 10-1, 7.5 games up on the Braves. It's tough to see a team like that just smacking good baseball teams around.
I looked at my app and saw that score and was like, you've got to be kidding me. As good as the Dodgers are, they get ramrodded by the Phillies.
Big news, Kawhi Leonard has withdrawn from Team USA. He will not compete in the Paris Olympics. Do we know yet who's going to replace him?
Yes, Derek White of the Boston Celtics.
There you go.
Replace Kawhi.
Bubba Wallace has been fined $50,000 by NASCAR over some retaliation after the race this past weekend in Chicago.
Little drive-by, a little tap on the side of the car. Not allowed. NASCAR said no.
We spent some time last week, Cole, talking about sports betting. Well, Drake has lost again. He's been on a massive cold streak when it comes to betting. He lost $300,000 on a bet on a Copa America semifinal game between Canada and Argentina. He wagered that Canada would beat Argentina. Didn't happen that way. He stood to win. I guess this is a smart bet when you're as rich as Drake is. Wager $300K, stand to win $2.88 million if Canada wins that match. Ultimately, it didn't happen, and the Argentina national team Twitter account trolled Drake with Kendrick Lamar lyrics on their victory post.
I love it.
I'm surprised people in Argentina know who Kendrick Lamar is.
Guess he's that big time, man.
Yep.
Everybody knows KL.
And Rory McIlroy has finally spoken out about his U.S. Open collapse, saying that he's put the loss behind him and that his final round was, quote, a great day until it wasn't. If you remember, he missed short putts on 16 and 18 that helped give Bryson DeChambeau a 1-stroke victory at the U.S. Open.
Should be interesting, though, because he's kind of been in hiding for a few weeks. Rory has. Now, this weekend, going to a course he won at last year. You never know. Rory might make a resurgence, but I don't think he will. All right, it's time to fight. The 5 o'clock fight, the most interacted with segment that we do on this very station. We'll have a special guest join us this time. And no, it's not Melissa. Melissa's on vacation, but we will still fight it out right here on the Fan Upstate.
97.7. Keyword Fan. This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan.
Apologies for the technical issues that we had in the last segment of the show. We believe that we have got it fixed, and right now we have your third clue and your chance to win a $25 Ingles gift card. Remember, this product is available inside of every single Ingles store. Clue number one, this item can work inside the store as well as outside of the store. Clue number two, Cole, what you fill it with determines how long you can use it.
Ooh. That's weird. Clue number two. I like that. And then clue number three. This item can be transparent or it can be opaque.
Yeah.
That makes you
Wild clue.
Makes you think.
What could it be? Do any of you
I-
Tolos think you know what the answer is? Text it in at 71307.
John Dog said earlier that he thought he knew. He sent in a guess, but it was not the right guess.
John Dog.
So, again, if you want to win the $25 Ingles gift card, you got to come by, guess what it is, put your name in the box, and we will go from there. You have a chance to win that $25 gift card.
And we are, just so that you can have time to get out here and see us, let's give away clue number 4, Cole, at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, which will then give our Tolos time to come around and see if they know the answer to the question.
Well,
see if they know what product it is we're talking about.
I believe we have an interview replay at the top.
Okay.
So it'll have to be about 6:20 or so.
You got it. You got it. Cole, we've been talking about this new EA College Football 2025 game, a lot of anticipation leading up to it. And EA Sports, I don't know if they're trolling the entire college football world, but if they are crushing the game. They are killing it, how good they are at trolling everybody, because they have just listed, Cole, their top 8 quarterbacks in the game in NCAA football 2025. Now, we remember they trolled saying that what stadium? Texas A&M was the toughest stadium to play in the game,
Yep.
and the internet lost their mind. They listed the top offenses in the game, the top defenses in the game, and the top overall team ratings in the game, and the internet loses their mind. Let's see how close they are to being right as they list off the top 8 quarterbacks in NCAA football 2025, starting with number 8, Cole, Caden Salter. Do you have any clue who Caden Salter is?
Caden Salter. The name sounds familiar. Top 8 quarterbacks.
Yep.
God, the name sounds familiar. Not an SEC quarterback.
Kind of broke onto the scene last year, a school that's new to playing FBS football.
I was going to say it's not SEC. No,
Nope.
I don't know.
Now it's on your screen. Caden Salter is a quarterback at Liberty, and he is listed as the 8th best quarterback in NCAA football
like
2025.
Liberty, where we are right now.
Well, not this Liberty, but the Liberty that's in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay, yeah. Other Liberty.
Number 7 on this list, Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. Number 6, Jalen Daniels, quarterback at Kansas. Number 5, Jalen Milroe at Alabama. Now, those 4 quarterbacks there are listed with the equal rating. So it's essentially 5A, B, C, and D, right?
Sure.
Number 4, Quinn Ewers from Texas. No real problem with that. Dylan Gabriel, number 3. Number 2, and this is the one that has the internet losing their minds, Shadur Sanders. Are we shocked that NCAA football 25 is gassing up Colorado again? No, we're not, but it's still ludicrous to even talk about. And the number one quarterback in NCAA football 2025 will be Carson Beck.
And that's
with a
dumb,
rating of
too.
93. They rated Carson Beck and Shadur Sanders the same.
Well, let me tell you
What?
this.
What are they doing?
If Cole had to make the list by God, Quinn Ewers would be number 1, and there would be no other. How can you sit here and tell me Shadur Sanders and Carson Beck's better than Quinn Ewers? I mean, really, what have they shown that makes them better than those two? Carson Beck, I mean, you could argue, if you want to get on this road, you could argue that Carson Beck's the game manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he has so much talent. He doesn't have to do a lot of little dink and dunk. I'm not buying Carson Beck and Shadur Sanders being above Quinn Ewers.
Well, there's a good reason for that.
It better be good.
Yeah, there's a good reason for that. And there's a good way to actually measure that. How about total QBR from 2023 when these guys were actually on the field. The best quarterback, according to QBR, was Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel was the 4th best quarterback in college football last year. And guess what? Quarterbacks 1, 2, and 3 all said bye-bye to college football and all went to the NFL. So Dylan Gabriel, as far as the guys on this list, there's no reason why he should not be the best quarterback in this game. It doesn't make sense. Carson Beck was behind him at number 7 overall. Again, this is last year, and that QBR ranking includes a lot of the guys who left to go to the NFL. So Carson Beck should be number 2 on this list. Number 3 on this list, Cole, should go to Jalen Milroe at Alabama. He was the number 9 quarterback in college football last year. Also on this list, Quinn Ewers, he was number 15. Jackson Dart, number 20. Caden Salter, put that guy on the bottom of the list because he did what he did at Liberty, a team that didn't play anybody, that played one of the weakest schedules in college football history. He showed out. He balled out against the schedule that he played. It's not his fault that Liberty played a weak schedule. It's the coaching staff. It's the people who put together the schedule for Liberty. But the ones that should stand out to you, Cole, number 1, Jalen Daniels, who was at Kansas, who played, I think, like 3 games last year. Mm-hmm. He didn't get a chance to show an entire season. There's a guy we don't know an awful lot about. He's a guy that I think only played 1 Big 12 game last year because of injury. There's no reason why that guy, as much hype as there may be around him, should be listed as, what did they have him? They had him the 6th best quarterback in the game. That's just pure absurdity.
Yeah.
And Shedeur Sanders, guess what? Not inside the top 25, not even inside the top 50 best quarterbacks in college football last year. Well, he came out as the 56th best quarterback in 2023.
QBR stat is good as long as it supports your opinion. A lot of people use it. And look, you're saying, that these guys had a higher QBR than Quinn Ewers last year, and I get it. I understand that. But I'm not going to base everything based on QBR. There were several instances last year in the 2023, or maybe it was the 22 season in the NFL, where Zach Wilson had a higher QBR than Joe Burrow for like 4 weeks in a row. I'm still going to take Joe Burrow over Zach Wilson. It's a stat. It's, it doesn't show everything. It again, back to my point, when you're trying to make an argument for someone, people use QBR, but Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders aren't the 2 best quarterbacks in college football. It's not even close.
No. I mean, if we wanted to group these and even use the same ratings that they did, which again were they gave Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders both a 93, Dylan Gabriel and Quinn Ewers a 92, Milroe, Daniels, Dart, and Salter all a 90. I mean, these things need to be regrouped, right? There's no reason why Shedeur Sanders should be up there having a 93 rating in the game. And I don't know if a 93 versus a 92 actually means anything in this game, but it means something to the fans who want to debate things and who want to talk about which quarterback is better. I mean, could you say that Shedeur Sanders was one of the most important quarterbacks to his team as far as their ability to have success? Yeah. And if he had a team around him, probably would have had a phenomenal season there at Colorado. But you can't do it all yourself.
And you know what? Like, I hear people with Shedeur Sanders all the time say, including his dad, oh, well, if he had an offensive line, he'd be a lot better. Well, no crap. If every quarterback had a better offensive line, they'd have been a lot better.
If Clemson
had a better offensive line, he would have been a really good quarterback. South Carolina would have won 2 or 3 more games, but he didn't. Again, going back to, well, if this would have happened, and Clemson didn't fumble the ball 409 times last year, I mean, it didn't happen. Get a better offensive line, Coach.
There's a lot of quarterbacks, Cole, that it shocks me we're not anywhere on this list. Weren't even anywhere near the top 10. Where's Kyle McCord, who at Ohio State last year threw for 24 touchdowns and just 6 interceptions? His team finished 10th in the country. Why is that guy not inside the top 10 and top 8 quarterbacks on the list? Where's Brady Cook, who's at Missouri, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on a team that finished 8th in the country last year? Why are we putting quarterbacks from garbage teams inside the top 8, rating them highly? Again, this is not their power ranking of of quarterbacks from football last year. We're comparing them to our power rankings of quarterbacks last year. Where's Drew Aller, who as a freshman at Penn State threw for 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the Big Ten? I mean, there's some glaring omissions on this list.
I'm kidding.
He is not following coach's play call, and he is running a sweep to the left, a keeper to the left, and he's getting tackled at the 3-yard line.
I thought he fumbled it at the 3.
I mean, it's absurd. Like, EA football is really good at freaking people out and getting them going on this kind of stuff. And it's worked on us. There's a lot of hype around this game, but I mean, at some point, when do people say these guys clearly don't know what it is they're talking about? I'm not going to go buy a game from a bunch of people who don't know.
That'll never happen. That'll get more people to buy the game, right?
Exactly.
You know, it's fascinating because you look at a list like that. Let's say, for example, real quick, Diesel, would you take Jalen Milroe right now or Carson Beck?
I would take right now Jalen Milroe.
That's a guy. Too.
Yeah, that's a guy that can be a game changer, and if you need him to go out there and make you a big time play,
but
he will.
He's 5th on EA Sports top quarterback list. Carson Beck is 2. That's my point. I would also take Jalen Milroe. I would also take Jackson Dart, maybe. I mean, Carson Beck, Jackson Dart, I don't think there's a huge difference between the two. You may see at times this year Jackson Dart look like a better quarterback. Now, Carson Beck's in the best situation possible. He's playing on an NFL team. I mean, that's going to help, right? But Jackson Dart, I think, might be a better – I mean, I think I'd take Jackson Dart over Carson Beck. Again, I'm not a Carson Beck hater, but they have a really good team around them. You know, it helps.
Yeah, where's Deion Sanders? We have a texter here who says Coach Prime paid off EA. It's possible. It's possible. And maybe they just know that Shedeur Sanders is a star, is a celebrity among young fans of college football. And so maybe they think, hey, if we gas them up, if we gas up Colorado, then we'll get some more people to come by the video game. And that clearly seems like what it is they're doing, right? The texter says, for the record, the answer to the trivia question is, well, texter, you're right.
Can't say
you have the correct answer, but having the correct answer on the text line means nothing. You need to come here and put your name in the hat, and you can win a $25 Ingles gift card.
And for the record, he's the only one that's guessed it right.
He is the only one that's guessed it right. Texter wants to know, where is Arch Manning ranked?
Oh, Arch Manning.
He just entered the game yesterday.
Listen, Arch Manning.
They're still rendering his face and his curly hair.
The game, okay? So, you think one's at the top? No. Arch Manning really, is on the cover, okay? I mean, let's be honest. Arch Manning's the best quarterback according to everybody, right? That's what they're going to tell you. I don't know where he's ranked. That it doesn't go down that far. He has not had enough playing time probably to have an official rating. And by enough playing time, I mean any, right? So how do you rate him?
Yeah, I know. I hope that in years coming, Cole, as we actually have real world data and we have these guys building a video game and coming up with cover artwork around players that were actually good, not projected to be good, that maybe will fix this weirdo issue. Or, I mean, you know what? Just allow people to buy the game online and get the copy that they want. It doesn't matter who's on the actual cover.
Madcraft says, or asked the question on the stream, did you see the historic experiences they showed? Want to run back that kick 6 in the Iron Bowl? You can do that. How about that? That is so cool, man.
You get to play those experiences?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's sweet.
Awesome. That's something that I remember EA, like a NASCAR video game, all the way back in 2007. I'm talking like PS2 allowed you to do. It would put you in, you're like in 10th place at Daytona with 2 laps to go or a lap to go. Yeah. And you're a Dale Jr. And he went from 10th to 1st. If you can do it, guess what? You win the challenge. And I love it.
I did
absolutely love it.
I did too. All right. Coming up next. The audio that's catching the sports world by storm. I don't know how he still can say these things and not get any punishment. He gets away with anything, I guess. He's the Charles Barkley of college football. But you guess what coach I'm talking about and what audio I'm talking about. You probably heard it already. If not, we'll have it for you next. All right, Mike Gundy. Yep, he's 40. He's a man. Everybody knows the famous quote from Mike Gundy. However, this audio here, this one doesn't paint him into the best light.
Take a wild guess. How old is Mike Gundy?
I'm going to guess Mike Gundy is 52.
56.
The
I'm a man, I'm 40 was 16
That's a long
years
time
ago.
I didn't realize that.
Wow.
Here is the cut of audio that I was referencing, Brandon. This is cut 3. Maybe. We're trying to get – you got it? Let's try that again, Brandon. Cut 3.
What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma is 0.08, in Ollie was 0.1. So I looked it up, and it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life.
I've probably done that 1,000. Is this the first time you've heard this audio?
That's the first time I'm hearing this.
All right, one more time. Brandon, again, cut 3. If you'd heard it, yes, you heard that right, Diesel. Yes, you heard that right. One more time, Mike Gundy.
What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma is 0.08, in Ollie was 0.1. So I looked it up, and it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life.
So Mike Gundy talking about his star running back, Ollie Gordon.
Yeah.
And
Did a DUI.
Did a DUI, drinking and driving under, just right under. Says, oh, I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life. Now, and this guy's still coaching college football.
He is okay. Would you fire him for him saying I have drank?
Texas did. They fired a drunk.
Well, there's a difference between somebody who's saying I've had 3 or 4 beers and drove versus Steve Sarkisian.
Well,
like that's a very different. That's a very different thing.
But drinking and driving is drinking and driving.
But also,
though,
you can't arrest somebody. You can't charge somebody for saying, "Hey, I did something." I did something illegal one time, or I did something illegal in the past, unless there's evidence of a crime.
Oh,
right?
I'm not saying convict him. I'm just saying, is this the guy you want your kid playing for?
I think what he's trying to do here, and Mike Gundy he's always been good at presenting himself as an everyman. Like his entire thing is that I'm an everyman. Like I'm a man, I'm 40. Don't come after my players, come after me. The mullet, kind of the fly by the seat of your pants, kind of freewheeling kind of dude. And I think he's not saying anything, Cole, that anybody who is a consumer of alcohol, who probably has not done once or twice in their lifetime. Are you telling me that you've never, ever gotten behind the wheel of a car when you've had more than 2 drinks in the last hour?
I don't think I've ever drove after I've had any. No, I mean,
okay. I mean, hey, I'm not trying to say that anybody is better than anybody else.
No, I'm just saying, and that's not the point. That's not what I'm saying.
I think he's trying to present himself.
I'm not saying I'm better than he is. I'm just saying it's a crap look.
He's trying to present himself as an everyman, and he's trying to maybe plead for some kindness, and trying to paint Ollie as just like, hey, he's done it. I've done it. Shouldn't have done it, but it happens. I think that's what he's trying to do. And obviously, nowadays when everybody crucifies everybody for everything they do or any decision that they make, it's not working, right? I know you're not going to get a whole lot of sympathy from the people who have ever dealt with a loved one, who have been in an accident with somebody who had a little bit too much to drink. You're not going to get sympathy from those people. But I think what he's trying to do is like, hey, give him a break because he made a mistake that a lot of us have made.
I don't think you say that. Like he got behind the wheel and he got a DUI. If he killed somebody, there would be no Mike Gundy sitting here saying,
Sure.
Well, let's give them grace. I'm all for grace. Look, everybody, I've messed up a million times. I've messed up more than anybody, probably. Everybody makes mistakes. To your point, that's not the point of me bringing this up and saying, oh, look at him. He should say. I'm saying if you're a college coach in that position,
Right.
you don't say, oh, I've done this 1,000 times.
It's not a smart move.
Yeah.
It's you're right. In that sense, it's not a smart move. Madcraft says, how many times do you reckon he hit a mailbox or a street sign in his life? Over under 21. Well, I would set the over under at 40, Madcraft.
He's probably hit his fair share of mailboxes.
He said, every person has driven once they probably shouldn't have. Let's not be hypocrites. But
We're not
Mike didn't
nobody's
word it
saying
right.
the word. Nobody, you and both of y'all asking, like, making it about me or you. That's not the point. We're not saying, look, I mess up every day. That's not what I'm saying. I just said, Madcraft, I probably mess up more than anybody on this station, on this stream, in the world. I mess up more than anybody. The point is, I can't get here on the radio and sit here and say, oh, I've driven and drank 1,000 times. I've probably done that 1,000. You can't say that. You cannot say it. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it. Shame on you. If you hear me saying that, you're pushing your agenda. I'm not saying that. It's plain and simple. I don't know if it's not coming across that way, but you're in the position of leading young men. You just can't do it.
Yeah, and I know as a coach, we want these guys to always say the right thing. And Mike, as you're saying there, he messed up. Mike said the wrong thing. I think he probably had an intent behind it that didn't come across, and it was a really stupid thing to say because, I mean, now wouldn't every police officer in and around Stillwater, Oklahoma be on the lookout for Mike Gundy because now we know that Mike Gundy drinks and drives fairly regularly?
They probably already know that.
Yeah.
Texter from the 470 says, mistakes or not, drinking and driving is unacceptable. You don't give anyone the give him a break talk. 100 out of 100 times you aren't smart doing that. I agree, Texter. 470. I agree with that. The Texter says the dude had 2 open bottles of liquor in the car. I guess he's talking about Ollie Gordon, the running back.
Yeah.
Woo.
Now, there are some really interesting and strange, difficult to follow laws when it comes to an open container in a vehicle. Like you can go to dinner. This is the law in South Carolina. You can go to dinner, buy a bottle of wine that you and your partner there don't finish, and you can cork it and take it home with you. You have no intention of drinking it and driving it while you're in the car, but guess what? If you set it in the back seat, that's crime. If it goes into the trunk, that's legal. I mean, I don't know the details around the Ollie Gordon situation. So, Texter, I'm just going off of what limited information that you provided there. So, I don't know if that's what happened in this situation or not, but it is difficult sometimes to follow the law in those instances.
All right. Coming up next, what do we have? Diesel, is it Todd Summers.
Yep, we have a replay of an interview from earlier in the show. WSPA 7 sports reporter Todd Summers next.
Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire. This is the Fan Upstate.
So Cam Newton, everybody's good old buddy Cam Newton, he always has something to say, whether you like Cam or dislike Cam. I want to get your thoughts on this. 71307 is the way you can text into the show. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 633 with us right now in the chat. But Cam Newton ranked Dak Prescott above Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, and Trevor Lawrence. That is 5 quarterbacks that Cam Newton ranked Dak Prescott ahead of. Now, one of them was battling some injury last year. Justin Herbert's had a bleep show in the front office and coaching staff. Trevor Lawrence started off great. They did not end the season well. And then Kyler Murray, everybody knows Kyler Murray. But I guess I want to hear our initial reaction, your initial reaction, Diesel, to Cam Newton ranking Dak over Hurts, Herbert, Cousins, Murray, Lawrence, as well as the Tolo's reaction. And if you would agree with Cam or who you would say is better than the most hated quarterback in the country in Dak Prescott.
I mean, he's got a point with a couple of those guys. I mean, Kyler Murray certainly got a point with Kyler. Does he have a point with Trevor Lawrence? Well, Dak is at least getting the Cowboys to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
He's not winning playoff games, but Trevor's not doing that. So, okay, he might have a little bit of a point with that one. And he may be picking different categories. A thing about Trevor Lawrence that he likes Dak better than that aspect about Trevor, or on down the line. So he may have his own individual reasons for picking Dak above each one of those guys. But isn't it interesting that he is very much enamored with a player who kind of looks like him, kind of plays like him, is built like him? I mean, he clearly loves his own style, so he loves Dak's style more than those other guys.
So in 2023, Jalen Hurts' completion percentage was 65%, 3,858 yards, almost a 4,000-yard passer in 2023. 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Dak Prescott, when you look at the season as a whole last year in 2023, he was close to the same. And as soon as I pulled his page up, there it goes. I had to click another tab. So, again, last year, 2023, Jalen Hurts, 3,800 yards. Last year in 2023, Dak Prescott, 4,500 yards. So a significant difference there. Now let's look at touchdowns and interceptions. Last year, Jalen Hurts, 15 interceptions. Dak Prescott last year, 9 interceptions. Last year, Jalen Hurts, 23 touchdowns. Dak Prescott, 36 touchdowns. So last year, Dak Prescott had a league-leading, record-breaking year in the regular season. Obviously, the one postseason game went terrible. He did over 403 yards and 3 touchdowns and 2 picks, but that was after a lot of those were trash points and trash yards as they got walloped by the Packers. But I don't have as much problem with this. I guess the only thing that I would say is eventually I do think Trevor Lawrence will be a good quarterback. Now, have we seen those flashes from Trevor that we saw in college? At times we have, but Trevor hasn't been able to put consistent play together, and I think that's probably where I'd have the issue there. But at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins, I mean, you look at what he did last year, he's a good quarterback. 2023, 2,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he didn't play every game. Got hurt last year. Kyler Murray, I don't think anybody would argue. When Kyler Murray came out of high school, Kyler Murray was the next big thing. In college, he was fantastic, right? I don't think anybody would argue now, though, that Kyler Murray's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott.
Well, there's you can break down quarterbacks in the NFL, I think, pretty accurately into 4 different classes. There's the upper class, there's the upper middle class, the lower middle class, and the garbage tier quarterbacks. There's not a ton of garbage tier quarterbacks because guess what? You don't get to keep your job for very long if you're a garbage tier quarterback. You also don't. There are not that many elite, best of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It is a small fraternity of guys. That's what being elite is. So a majority of the NFL kind of sits in that middle class, and I think you can divide that very easily into two sections. You got the bottom half of the middle, and you got the top half of the middle. And Dak Prescott is certainly one of, if not the best, of the upper middle class quarterbacks, but he's certainly not good enough to be an elite guy. So I don't think Cam is that far off. I know a lot of people just love to instantly react to what Cam Newton has to say because he is a lightning rod. He's always been a lightning rod, even when he was at Auburn, when he first got drafted to Carolina. Everybody was really excited and thrilled that he was there because his demeanor and his joy for the game was infectious. But man, once he kind of turned people off, it was over for him with a lot of fans.
So obviously, with me being a Cowboys fan, you might say I'm biased. You might say I have a love for Dak that most wouldn't. But when you look at those top quarterbacks, I'll go through a few of them. Obviously, I would take Patrick Mahomes over Dak. I would take Lamar over Dak. I would take Joe Burrow over Dak. Josh Allen is kind of where I start. Josh Allen's fantastic. I think I would still take Josh Allen a little bit over Dak. It wouldn't be by much, though. Josh Allen led the NFL last year in big-time throws, playoffs included, 41 throws. He can push the ball down the field as good as anybody. Dak's a really good quarterback. I think I'd have Josh probably a little bit ahead of Dak. I would take Dak over Herbert, Stafford, Rodgers, obviously. Rodgers today is not the quarterback he was 3 or 4 years ago. I would take Dak over Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't take him over C.J. Stroud in Houston. I'm a big fan of C.J. Stroud. Jordan Love, really good season last year. So, that's the big argument, whether Dak is a top 5 quarterback or not. I think Dak Prescott at his best is around the 5th to 6th, maybe 7th best quarterback in the NFL. And there's nothing wrong with that because those quarterbacks make bukus of money and are going to be set for life. But there are some people that do not and will not, like Shady McCoy and others, will not put Dak Prescott in the top 10, and I think that's a little outrageous.
Yeah, that's really underselling a guy like him, and I got no problem putting him as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Top 5, absolutely not. And there was a couple of guys there that you said that maybe have some potential to go on and be better than Dak Prescott, but aren't quite there yet. I mean, I would almost, strictly because of his injuries and his availability issues, I would almost kind of teeter-totter Joe Burrow versus Dak Prescott as far as their longevity and their ability to stay healthy. Obviously, Dak has shown that he's had some issues. He's got that walking boot on, but it's purely cosmetic. He's not using it for any real reason right now other than he just likes the fashion. But, hey, I mean, this is a very, very tough position. There's only 32 starting quarterback jobs in the NFL. There's only 32 men in the world that can hold that position. And if you are in the top 10 in that profession, then, I mean, you're doing really well for yourself. You can make a ton of money for yourself. And when you're in that 5 to 10 category, it makes it difficult for ownership and your coaching staff to move on from you because it is such a rare thing to find a quarterback who can be elite in the NFL that if your option is a guy who's pretty good, a guy that can get you to the playoffs most years, even if he's not winning you playoff games, that's better than searching for the next guy after that, because then you start this cycle of going through quarterbacks every 2 or 3 years all over again, and that's not an enviable position for any franchise to find themselves in.
Matt Kraft says, taking Dak over Herbert is insanity. What a joke. Well, Matt Kraft,
you're biased.
You want to look at we're both biased, right? You and I are both biased. Do you want to look, Matt Kraft, at last year, 2023 statistics, or what year do you want me to look at? Because if I look at last year, Dak had 410 completions compared to Herbert's 297. His percentage, he had a 69 percentage compared to a 65 of Justin Herbert. 4,500 yards from Dak, 3,000 yards from Justin Herbert. 36 touchdowns compared to 20 touchdowns from Herbert. So if you want to look at another year, let me know. I can definitely do that as well. It's up to you, though. I like Justin Herbert. I really do. But what has Justin Herbert shown, Madcraft, that shows that he's a better quarterback?
I wasn't shooing flies. I was watching Cole just smack Madcraft around.
Well, I mean, you want to look at the statistics of it. You want to look at the facts. Let's look at head-to-head.
And that's the fact, Dak.
Yeah, okay, let's see. Completion percentage as a career, 67% completion percentage for Dak, 66 for Herbert, so right behind them there. Interception rate, Dak has them at 99. Interceptions, passing touchdown, that's not even close either. Yeah, Justin Herbert hasn't been in the league as long. Head-to-head, what about head-to-head when those two teams have played? Dak 2-0, Herbert 0-2. So, look, I don't want you to hear me wrong, Madcraft. I will definitely be Team Herbert, but I'm telling you right now, Dak Prescott he's better. I'll take Dak Prescott over Justin Herbert.
So, Cole, here's something interesting. Another thing that Cam Newton has got himself in the news for, and I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of Carolina Panthers fans who will disagree with him on this. Cam Newton on the 4th and 1 show said none of this is going to matter. He's talking about the $650 million facelift package that the Carolina Panthers received from the city of Charlotte. None of this is going to matter if the man in charge isn't one with the city. And if that's not your ex-quarterback who some fans still love, hitting the nail on the head, you can't argue with that. I mean, I can't find anyone who will say Dave Tepper can be a loose cannon and can go do what he wants to do and can waste his money doing this and can, send his attention to soccer and can talk about all the concerts that he's bringing and still find success as an owner in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any crack in Cam Newton's logic on this?
Is there a crack in it? I think I agree with Cam.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to. And again, for a guy that a lot of fans are turned off on because of him not jumping on that fumble in the Super Bowl, I think Cam Newton absolutely nailed that one, and he's absolutely right. Dave Tepper is going to be the thing that will hold the Carolina Panthers back until he eventually gets frustrated and sells the team. I mean, I remember him saying in his introductory press conferences, I want to win. I'm not here to just own a team and make money off of it. I'm here to win. And so far, all he's done is spiral this thing down the toilet bowl, and it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse year in and year out. So Dave Tepper is going to have to drastically change what it is he does, how it is he interacts with his team, or else this is going to be bad until the day he finally gets frustrated and sells.
Couple of texts I want to get to before we hit a break. 470 says Cam Newton has said bad stuff every time he talks. That's the first smart thing he said. Might be honest. 371 says, this is Fat Paid. What has Dak done to deserve praise? Got boat raced by Jordan Love. Fat Paid, listen, Dak, I will give criticism of Dak when it's due, when it's recognized, when it's deserved. When you say he got boat raced by Jordan Love, I hate to inform you, but Dak Prescott doesn't play defense. When they give up over 450 yards to Green Bay and Jordan Love, that has zero to do with Dak. That has nothing to do with the other quarterback. Fat Paid, I'm not just a Dak supporter 24/7. I've been very critical of Dak over 8 years. However, you saying taking Dak over Super Bowl champ Stafford is exactly why you've never seen the Dallas Super Bowl. Look, I think the team matters. I think Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. And let me go back to something Fat Paid, because I knew exactly what you were going to say. You said last year he didn't play offense either. Well, let me go back to Dak Prescott 2023 postseason last year, 41 of 60, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, he had 2 picks, quarterback rating of 89.8. Look, was Dak Prescott the reason they lost that game, Fat Paid? Right now, answer live. Honestly, the Jordan Love game where they boat raced the Cowboys defense, was Dak Prescott the reason they lost that game? Answer that yes or no. Because if you say yes, then you're just being biased. Matthew Stafford had to go to a stacked LA team where he had uber talent, the best defensive lineman, the best receiver. Matthew Stafford's a really good quarterback, but right now I'll take Dak over Stafford. I mean, maybe it's because I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'm telling you, I'll take him over Stafford, and I'll also take him over Herbert. If you watched last year in the regular season, who was the best quarterback last year in the regular season? Answer that question as well. There was only one quarterback last year who blew everyone else out of the water. Now, if you want to talk about playoffs, you've got a point. You've got an argument. He doesn't perform in the playoffs. Over the years, he hasn't performed the way that he should, okay? I'll not argue with you there. But last year, regular season, there was nobody better than Dak Prescott. 69.5 completion percentage, over 100 quarterback rating, 36 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. What else do you want to see from Dak Prescott last year over a course of a regular season? All right, I'm done ranting.
Are you good?
I'm done ranting.
If you need it, there's blood pressure medication on all five.
I can get fired up about the Cowboys now.
Oh, man, I love you guys texting in. You Tolos who have turned it on and left it on the entire show. Fat Paid, Madcraft, all of you. The beauty is in the banter, as our friend Chris Phillips likes to say. That is the fun part, going back and forth at each other. Nobody's mad at anybody. Nobody wants bad things to happen to each other's mamas. We're all friends here. It's all good. When we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to put a bow on this, which is the 75th episode of Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson with our Daily Wires. That's next, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app.
in. We're going full throttle. Grip it and rip it, baby. Yeah.
You're going wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Cole, have you ever gripped it and ripped it? Could you say that you've done that in your life?
I did yesterday. I opened a Slim Jim.
Oh.
The Slim Jim, do you know that that's what their motto is?
Really?
Yes.
Is it grip it and rip it, baby?
Yes. Yeah, we were stealing their motto. When you open a Slim Jim next time, look, on the thing it says grip it and rip it.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, did it yesterday.
Didn't know that we were guilty of copyright infringement.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
Better keep that quiet. Okay, to close out the show today, Cole, we got added a couple of new daily wires from what we had earlier in the show, but this is the segment each and every day, sometimes multiple times per day, where we take you around the sports world. It's called our Daily Wires. This is the buzz in the sports world. Greg Berhalter has been fired as the U.S. men's national team coach after the failure at Copa America, where the U.S. men's national team lost to Uruguay and Panama.
Good.
This is America. You can't lose to tiny little countries in South America.
I was fed up about that. I just couldn't sleep because of the soccer team and USA and our losses and Uruguay and Panama.
I'm sure Rob talked about it for an hour today.
I would have talked about it for 2. I love soccer and I love USA. I love it. Love the Olympics.
Former Gamecock Asia Wilson had her first 2020 game as a pro, 24 points and 20 rebounds in a win over the Seattle
Supersonics?
No, Storm. Come on. On Wednesday, shout out to Asia Wilson for achieving that 2020 game. The NBA has reached a new media rights deal, Cole, 11 years, $76 billion. A lot of money. So we're going to see NBA player salaries and contracts keep going up as well. Congratulations to Adam Silver for putting that deal together. The Atlanta Braves won last night, Cole, against the Diamondbacks 6-2. They've now won 4 games in a row. That's called a winning streak.
Yes.
It has happened before. 51-39 on the season, and they looked good last night. 2 runs in the second, 3 runs in the sixth. Those 3 runs came off of an Adam Duvall 3-run homer to left field. Chris Sale got the win. He now leads Major League Baseball with 12 wins on the season.
Yeah, they'll lose tonight, though, because Charlie Morton's on the mound. I'm serious. Charlie Morton sucks. The Braves have not lost to the Diamondbacks this year. They'll lose tonight. It'll be 5-2.
Like all fans want them to do is sweep this series, but they won't.
No. Diamondbacks win tonight 5-2 over Atlanta.
There you go. Let's see. Charlie Morton gets the start in this game. 9:40 will be first pitch time. I can't stay up late to watch those games, man.
I fell asleep last night. I watched the first one, but not last night.
The Phillies, who lead the NL East, beat down the Dodgers last night 10-1. They're 7.5 games up on the Braves. I know that when they played the Braves, there was some injury concerns for the Phillies. Have they rectified those injury concerns, or are they just that good even without their stars?
They're that good, but they can't beat the Braves.
Can't beat the Braves. Kawhi Leonard withdrew from Team USA. He will not compete for America at the Olympics. Blank on his name now. Derek White from the Celtics will fill in for him.
Yeah, Kawhi sucks. He's always
just a good name.
Well, no, he's the most overrated, useless player in the league. He's terrible.
Bubba Wallace was fined $50,000 by NASCAR over some post-race retaliation. I don't know anything about this. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, at the very end, after the checkered flag, he just kind of bumped up. A little drop. He drove up beside him, bumped up against him a little bit because he was upset about it.
That's $50K?
Yep, $50K right there gone.
Who's paying that? Sponsors, or do you think that's coming out of Bubba Wallace's personal account?
Probably coming out. I'd say the driving team has to pay for it. I
mean, think about it this way, Cole. You get yourself into a little post-race dust-up. That gets shown on television and on social media a ton, which means the sponsor name is going to be shown on television and TV a ton. I mean, I think it even behooves sponsors to pay this price, right? Because
put their logo on it.
Put the logo on it, especially if it's not something that's overtly and objectively negative that happened, like somebody throwing a punch and saying something about somebody's mama. Somebody will have a reason to hate that. But just a little post-race bump, spin out, something like that, I think that's fantastic marketing. and the sponsors should pay that money. Drake lost a $300,000 bet betting on Canada to beat Argentina at Copa America. We talked last week, I think, about some of his blunders and his mishaps in gambling. He must win a lot of money, Cole, because he certainly loses a lot of money while gambling.
Yeah, I wish I had that kind of money to throw around, but he's been on a hot streak. A cold streak. Maybe this title will turn.
$300K he lost on that bet, but if he had hit, he would have won $2.88 million on Canada to beat Argentina in Copa America. The Argentina national team trolled Drake in their celebration post with Kendrick Lamar lyrics. So even if you're from South America, you can still understand and clap back in English. I love that.
Yeah.
And Rory McIlroy said that his final round at the U.S. Open, he finally spoke out. His final round was, quote, a great day until it wasn't. He missed short putts on 16 and 18, helped Bryson DeChambeau to a one-stroke victory. I can feel Rory McIlroy on this, Cole, because there are days when you are going out there, holes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, feeling good, playing well. In my case, it's a par, maybe like 2 bogeys and a double bogey is a good start for me. With Rory, he's considerably better, so that would be a terrible start for him. But, it can just get away from you. And, the pressure of 16 and 18 and being in the U.S. Open certainly caught up to him, and he was not able to hold on for the win. So Rory, he'll be back. He'll be back. He's a fine golfer, but I wonder if his major winning days are behind him.
Well, it might be the Genesis Scottish Open this weekend. I'd say he has a pretty good chance at it. He won there last year, and it starts tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see if he can mount a storm or mount a comeback and rectify that collapse at Pinehurst, because that's exactly what it was a collapse. I've never seen anything like it. I don't watch a ton of golf, but that collapse that happened to him was just brutal. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, if that's me, if I'm Rory, I'm taking a couple of weeks off, as it seems that he's done.
He did. Yeah.
And he's playing this week to warm back up. And then, of course, the Open Championship is next week, starting on the 18th. Is that the fourth and final
it is.
Major of the year?
Yeah, I think so. We've already had 3.
Yeah. So
that's
the last major of the year. Rory, if you want to get it done in 2024, this is when you got to do it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for toloing, turning it on, and leaving it on. We'll be back in studio tomorrow. Thanks to Brandon back at the network studios for keeping us on the air. Appreciate you. Tolos. We'll catch you tomorrow right here on the Fan Upstate.
Tolo.
Thanks, guys. Y'all take it easy.